the genius, Mr. Walter Whitman. Are you a genius?
I wouldn't say that.
What would you say?
I'm just a musician.
Talk to me, would you? Talk to me. Ooh, yeah. Talk to me.
Dr. Walt Whitman Jr. is indeed a genius. Since birth, he's been a globetrotter, and that fact has forever been tied to his destiny. He is a global leader that for 3 decades has been teaching, impacting, and instructing some of tomorrow's next global leaders. He is the founder and director of the world-renowned Soul Children of Chicago, and his accomplishments are really too vast to number. Whitman and I sat down to talk about his life.
Mr. Walter Whitman, how are you, sir?
Jamie Simon, I don't know if to call you Pastor, Reverend, Little Jamie, Big Jamie. Who are you? No.
Listen, I have waited a long time to do this, and
It's almost scary, but anyway.
Yeah, it really is. But it's a pleasure to have you, and just want to ask you a couple of questions. You grew up as an Army brat. Mm-hmm. You grew up. Just talk a little bit about what that was like, life being from a military family.
Well, actually, being in a military family gives you such a very broad perspective of life. Being able to travel from all across the world, living in Greece as a child, and there's a whole lot to being a part of the military life, the good and bad. Sure. And so many people don't know about the bad, and that the bad is what made me what I am now, which is the good. But from that came all of the stuff that, there was a lot of things that happened with the military. My father and the whole Vietnam War experience and how that helped me. It actually pushed me into a place, to where I am now. Being a child in Athens, Greece, in my second grade year, second and third and fourth grade, and just watching how life began to shift for me in an early age. And it's made me who I am, which is the international part of me. That's how that developed.
Which we will certainly get to. How old were you when you first started playing or really discovered music?
Well, depending on how you look at it, because I used to go to New Covenant Baptist Church here as a child, and so I used to watch the choir, and I watched how they did, and that's what stirred up my musical appetite. Okay. And then we left and went from here to Athens, Greece.
To Greece, okay.
And so, but in Greece is where they bought me my first little keyboard. That's when I first, it was a small 21 keyboard called Supreme organ, and it had a little chord thing. You push the chord and go, and you play. So you played the little chord, and I played that thing. I think I still have that keyboard. But I played that thing until, I think I had more church services on that little small keyboard. We shouted and danced, and we prayed the Lord, hallelujah.
So how old were you? You said second grade is when you guys left, but you kind of, I guess, saw the choirs and stuff. How old would you say you were when you were kind of picking that stuff up?
Well, that has to, I don't know. It has to be, probably 68, 69. Yeah, because that would be 68, 69. So probably about 8 or 9, 8 or 9, 10 in that age range, because that would be the age of third, fourth grade, second grade, third, fourth. Yeah, so about 8 or 9.
Okay.
When I actually kind of launched into, my musical journey.
Now, when you started, what was the first thing that kind of ignited you? Was it the music itself? Was it singing? Was it the choirs? What was it that kind of opened you up to say, Wow, this is something I'm feeling a connection to.
I used to have this thing. Oh God, I don't even know if I'm saying all this stuff.
Yes, sir.
No, I had a thing about choirs and choir robes. And during that time, the choir robes had the angel sleeves.
Sure.
And they had the stoles. And so my aunt and them used to sing in the New Covenant choir, and I used to love to put on their robes when they was at home.
I got it.
And I play, and I go in front of the mirror, and I direct, and I put on the little stole, and because they used to like to shout it, with that. And so I would direct, and then I'd act like I was shouting, and I lose the stole. So no, I'll just let me stop. No, but that was how. That was my beginning.
So it's really the choir aspect.
The choir aspect.
Kind of
I love the sound of the choir. I love the songs that they would be singing. I love the soloist, and I love the directing. The directing was probably what captured me because of the way they would direct and the way they would control the choir. And I think that's kind of stirred it up in me. And then when I went to Alaska, my directing developed even further because there was a man named Liddell Thomas, Minister Liddell Thomas. He's a superintendent now, but he had a style that I took, and that's where, and even right now, I still kind of have that style, and I just developed it. And so what people will see out of me is not, is really me watching and observing from childhood.
Got it.
And so,
No. It's great. So when you started playing, did you have a teacher, a former teacher, or were you just kind of self-taught?
More self-taught.
Okay.
I was one of those kids that after every church service, no matter where I went straight to the organ, turned it on, or straight to the piano and played it until they told me to get off. And so it was like any time I was at anybody's church or any place near a keyboard, I would just go and be on that keyboard until they tell me, get your tail up and off that thing and go home. And so, I wasn't taught necessarily. I took lessons later on.
Okay.
But it was really more of me wanting this so bad that I would do it until somebody decided to help me find a chord. If I was interested in the chord, or if I wanted to know more, there's certain people I would listen to or I would watch, and I would go up there and watch them, or I go up there and ask them, or ask them, would they show me something? Would you show me how you did that? And that's kind of how it happened with me, just watching and listening, observing.
Now, being in Chicago, obviously the city is rich in churches, always has been. What church did you start in, and who was your first pastor here?
Well, the church I started in would be New Covenant, with Elijah Thurston.
Okay.
I mean, I can remember Elijah Thurston, and I remember John L. Thurston, and then I remember Stephen Thurston. So I remember all of that. When you go back into the history of DeVella Norton Tuck, those people who paved the way, Ozell and Mosley Clifton, those folks that was part of the fiber of Chicago when it comes down to gospel.
Yeah.
And you get the, got the Albertina Walkers, and you run into the Inez's, and I do remember the Milton Brunsons when he brought all of them thousands of people to New Covenant. New Covenant was like the hub of that.
Really?
Of
that moment.
When it comes down to music, that was the place.
Wow.
Everything kind of happened there. But my first church was actually Antioch in San Antonio, Texas, which happened to be the same church that Jesse Dixon was a member of, and I never knew that.
Wow.
So that's where I first joined. So here was more, I was the kid that was always in the back, and I was, watching. When I moved to Texas, when my family relocated to Texas, that's when I took a step and made my faith. I decided to make the walk and say, I want to be baptized.
How old were you when you did that?
I was in junior high school. I mean, I was in junior, what was that? 8th grade. I was in 8th grade. I know to be the 8th grade. So whatever that age is, you asked me for ages. I can't
13, 14?
Yeah.
8th grade.
But it had to be, around that time. It's 73, 74, yeah. So, right, 13, around that time, yeah.
Wow. So you started in New Covenant, and you kind of blossomed out from there. What was your first job, non-musical or musical? What was the first employment you had?
Probably would be in Anchorage, Alaska.
Okay.
When I was working, because in Anchorage, Alaska, you had the Alaska Pipeline.
Okay.
And so in my junior high school, my first job was at a restaurant. I worked at a restaurant flipping burgers. And so we would have those, because people was working from the pipeline, people were making lots and lots of money.
Yeah.
So it was nothing for somebody to drop a $25 tip
Wow.
or put a $100 tip, just because they had so much money, they
Extra
just didn't
money,
care.
right.
So
Wow.
they pay for, you pay $3 for a hamburger and you get a $25 tip.
Wow.
So, I mean, that was my first job experience, was in Anchorage, Alaska.
Okay, and then your first church or your first music job, not necessarily church, what was your first music job?
My first music job would probably be in Anchorage, Alaska.
Okay.
That was when I first started my first community choir. I started.
Wow.
I worked with the church called New Hope Baptist Church, and I started directing the choir. I was singing in the choir. But then I started my first community choir there, and that was my first time really doing something where I got adults to follow me.
Wow.
And people would come, and we started doing what we did.
What was the name of the choir?
Don't ask me.
You don't?
I don't know. What was it? I can't even. No, Jesus, Lord, Father. Okay, Holy Spirit, you're supposed to bring all things back to my remembrance.
Back.
No, I don't know what that is. I can't even remember.
I remember the name of it. Okay.
I don't remember the name.
Okay, so you did a community choir in Alaska, and then in Chicago, what was your first musical job?
My first musical job here was First Unity Baptist Church, E.J. Jones.
Okay.
In fact, that was when because I was at New Covenant at the time. And New Covenant, I was too energetic for New Covenant. And so at that time, you didn't clap, you didn't rock, you didn't do anything. You just stood there and you just sang. And so I was too energetic, and they used to tell me, calm down, calm down.
Wow.
And so I ended up going to First Unity, and that was my first job there from high school. And then from there, I became a minister of music at Prayer Tabernacle, which is on 95th and Prospect. And that was my first minister of music job.
So at the first church, you were just a musician?
I was just a musician.
Okay.
I was playing, just playing the organ and piano, and helping out with the youth choir. And it was a young lady named Stephanie. I just remember she went from high school, and we used to all sing together.
Okay.
And so she just said, "Come on to my church." So. Okay. They started paying me like $25 on Sunday or something, $25, $50 on Sunday or something like that.
That is it.
Thank God those days are gone.
Yes,
but anyway,
God.
yes,
Yes, God. So when did you? Okay, so you're now working at this time at an actual church as a minister of music. When did you get into the school system? Start working with this in the school system?
My school system was 1985. 1981.
81.
When the Soul Children started, because I was starting with St. John de La Salle Catholic School.
And how did that start? How did you get there?
That happened because of the 4,000 Tongues to Sing mass choir that happened down in the Grant Park. It was the first time, I was before the Gospel Fest.
Wow.
It was actually the launching, probably the beginning or the stirring up of the Gospel Fest.
Got it.
But I was director of this mass choir.
Okay.
Because I had actually started with the Gospel Music Workshop of America.
Okay.
And I did my first mass choir with them in '79.
And where was it that year?
That was in Philadelphia.
Got it.
78, 79. And so that was my first experience. And actually that was probably, the Gospel Music Workshop of America was probably the real launching of my musical career.
Really?
Because that was my first time directing a 3,000 voice mass choir.
Okay.
That was my first time playing on a recording, my first live recording. It was the first time that the gospel industry had ever seen me direct and seen how God operated in me in that moment where we were able to take we had a 1,200 voice youth choir, and they literally just demolished the place.
Wow.
And it was from a little anthem that my godfather did, which was Robert Freisen.
Okay.
And who also wrote God Is, which is why that has been my
Absolutely.
one song.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so it's a lot.
Yeah. Did you write anything in that session?
No, not in my first recording session.
Yeah, with the Gospel Music Workshop.
No. I didn't do any writing the first time.
Okay.
I did, no. The only recording I did with the Gospel Music Workshop was when it was here in Chicago.
Okay.
With the Metro Mass Choir, the Where's Your Faith album of James Cleveland.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So you started in '81. You kind of fell into the school system.
Right.
And in
The Catholic school system.
Catholic school system.
Yeah.
And something happened in that year and in that moment that we have now found out 30 some odd years later to be called the Soul Children of Chicago. What happened at that moment in 81, 82 that kind of catapulted the Soul Children and made it happen for you?
Well, at first I was the minister of music at the church.
Okay.
And so they asked me to be, would I teach the school? All right, I didn't like kids. And so I took it as an extra job. I had to tell everybody that. I ain't like kids. No, listen, I was still alive. But no, I took it as a challenge.
Okay.
I was playing with Calvin Bridges at the time.
Got it.
At New Faith, at Faith Tabernacle. And I took this job and I said, I'm gonna take it and take it as a challenge.
Sure.
And it was during that period of time I saw these talented kids in class, and I said, if we're gonna have a children's choir, take it. Don't that whole whiny sing in unison kind of thing that just drove me crazy. So that's kind of how I took them and I started making them sound like an adult choir, which is what really catapulted them. So when every time people would hear them, they said, this don't sound like a children's choir. I mean, they would blow people away. It was like their first contest was a choir where everybody was like, oh, look at the little darling kids. And when they opened their mouth, it was like, whoa. and so it was one of those, and that's kind of how it kept going. And it kept going. And it's still like that now. People still get that whoa feeling when they first see them. It's like, they don't sound like kids. They don't, wow. Like you, when they first saw you, they said, Dad, that little boy, he sound like a grown man. And then, he get grown. Come to rehearsal, you see.
So from there, you took the challenge, took it as a job, and Soul Children was born. Once it started happening, walk us into the first competition and how all of that kind of started.
Well, the first competition was an inter-Catholic school competition with Aquinas. It was an Aquinas school, and we were going against high schools and elementary schools, and that was when we did the 27th Psalm. 27th Psalm was, and I got that actually from T.L. Barrett. I heard it on the radio, and it caught my attention, and that song, just something about that song, and I would teach it everywhere I went.
They stumbled and fell. What did they do, children?
And so when I talked to the Soul Children, I started adding my little pieces to it.
Indeed.
And from there, that was like our signature piece, 27th Psalm. And so the first time we did it, it was actually me on the piano with a drummer.
Wow.
And the choir.
Yeah.
And so I was directing, playing, and doing all of that at the same time. And the choir blew them away. That's how we won our first one. Second time was when we went to the WJPC choir competition, which was at the UIC Pavilion. And that was when we wore our little purple robes, and we had these little shoestring, little string things with the little cross on it. And it was a gold cross. They made it look like a little popcorn. But it was these robes that we made, and it was the most amazing feeling that the choir had worked so hard to be a part of the competition. And when they walked on stage, it was the presence, like it was like you never experienced before, that when you walked on the stage, all you heard was people screaming for whatever reason. I mean, I think what happened was people were surprised it was kids, but it was something about the cross and the lights. When the lights hit the cross and they made this turn, people went ballistic. So I still don't know how we won, because they didn't hear anything. but we won that competition, and that was really the catapulting, because that was the Ebony magazine, the Jet magazine, that all that stuff took us into everybody started finding out who is this Soul Children, who are they?
So at what point did you go from this is this is a job, an extra job that I'm taking as a challenge, to, wow, this could be something. What happened in you? What happened in you that you realized this could actually be something? It's no longer just something I'm doing on the side for the church. I've discovered something. At what point, and what happened in you to see that?
I don't know if that really ever happened like that.
Okay.
I mean, because it really, the thing was, I've always grown. I've been,
Okay.
and as I grow, everything I touch, I make it grow. So as I'm expanding, I just pour that into what I'm working with, and which is the Soul Children at the time. And so, and I think it has developed. So even with me now, I'm still, I see it now as something that is creating movement. We've got movement. I mean, literally, we have impacted the globe. So there's movements of the Soul Children in Scandinavia, but it comes from the spiritual piece that I've poured into the choir. Folks don't understand that's really the foundation. Soul Children sing, but that's not necessarily the key of what makes Soul Children Soul Children. What people have experienced out of the Soul Children is really the spiritual impartation that has taken place, that is acted out through the musical experience. And so when people experience Soul Children, when they're trying to duplicate us, they're trying to duplicate the style, not realizing that it's really the spirituality that has been imparted that makes the style what it is. And so that it's difficult to duplicate. Yeah. You can emulate it, but you really don't know how to bring it in, because if you don't embrace the spiritual, you're not going to really capture the.
You can't have one without the other.
Absolutely, it doesn't work.
Yeah. So, so basically, at this point, it wasn't a conscious decision then. It wasn't. No. I'm going to do it. It was really, I guess, just a wave that you just kind of rolled throughout from thing to thing. And you just said, hey, well, all right, we're going to do this. Let's move. That's how it happened?
It actually, which is why after 33 years, we're entering our 34th year, that it is like, it never stops. It's almost like it continues to remain fresh. There is something that happens, like even after 33 years, even if we sing the same songs, we've been doing some of the same songs before. I mean, we just do them as a whatever. But it's almost like we do it and it's brand new. And every time we're doing audiences that have never experienced this, so which means that it always becomes new.
It is new, right?
So it keeps it fresh. I think the Soul Children suffer a lot because they as African Americans, they need that affirmation of their own. But we don't do a lot on our own, in our own. Sure. And so for them, I almost have to force ourselves to do a church event so that they could feel that whatever that is that started with the Soul Children in the beginning.
Sure.
And so we've evolved. And so the Soul Children's evolve. The evolution of what the Soul Children has become from the time when we first started to where we are now is definitely a wide spread.
Sure.
Where we were very churchy, choir robes, and everybody likes that.
Right.
But that limits you. And so where we are now is the evolve. We can still do church, but we just have evolved into such much more.
Absolutely.
And so, and it's hard to articulate what that is and how to define that, because it's very hard to define.
Well, let's talk purpose and destiny. At some point you knew, and I guess maybe you're still knowing and finding out that this is part of your purpose and your destiny in life. Just talk a little bit about that.
Well, because again, developing myself in purpose and destiny, I teach that to those that I'm working with. And I believe that as we're learning purpose and destiny, that we're experiencing things that are causing us to grow and to expand. So everything that Soul Children have been doing over these years, it's almost divinely directed, where they're being exposed, their minds are being exposed, their vision is being exposed, even if they don't realize it at the time. I see that majority of the Soul Children, we've got more pastors, we got more worship leaders, we've got R&B artists, we've got people that are operating in business. Every area that they've grown into. I think when I think of like a Patrick Winfield, who's now the pastor at T.D. Jakes' church on a platform that's global, And to think that he started as a third grader in the Soul Children, and I saw something in him at third grade.
Wow.
That he's now married with children, pastoring a major church with one of the probably most prolific speakers in the world.
Absolutely.
But to see that there's a connection that's still there, that whatever took place in the Soul Children during the time we were in the Soul Children helped develop that.
Absolutely.
And to see, you know, I'm looking at, I'm watching it. The guy, one of our members, who's now the worship leader at Willow Creek. You're looking at a person who came to the Soul Children from a very strict Baptist church, who what worship was not even a part of the mindset, and being exposed to that. Now that same person who went to Willow Creek as a child, struggling, trying to figure out, how do I want to do this worship, but I don't know how to do it. Now you're leading worship at one of the largest churches in the world, called Willow Creek, white church.
Indeed.
And so you're looking at this, whatever this is that Soul Children has done, it continues to open up the possibilities to do whatever you want to do. Purpose. Creating purpose and destiny, even when you don't really know that that's what's happening. That's what's happening. You know, looking at you, you're now behind the cameras. You're working the cameras. You was a little boy coming in as just a singer.
Sure.
But now you're producing, you're writing, you're singing, you're leading worship, you're pastoring.
Yeah.
You know, your daughter is even in the Soul Children.
Hey.
I said, Lord Jesus. I said, even married one of the Soul Children. I said, you really encompass everything. So I said, so if y'all really want to know, this is the one that has all of the stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, he married one.
Yes.
He got one in the quad now.
Yes. Indeed.
But just to see, you develop and watch what's going on. It makes me excited. It's exciting.
Yeah.
But I'm still developing. I'm still feeling myself, even at my age.
Sure. So what is that then, sir? What is that in you? Because obviously what you just said is a mouthful. What you have taken over 30 years, 33 years now, going on 34 years, with kids, and to see where it's gone around the world, individually, everything that it has encompassed. In your wildest dreams, did you ever think that you would be someone that would be actually at the helm of something like that? Did you ever see yourself training people from that perspective, where what the seeds that you sowed into people would blossom and explode like they have? Did you ever see that in yourself?
No, I can't say that. I will say that the spiritual side of me that says, there's a scripture that talks about that if it says that you will be planted by the waters and your leaves will never wither. And if you continue to draw from the stream, from the sanctuary, that you will continue to flourish and your fruit will remain.
Sure.
And I believe that that's when, with the spiritual part of when the things that you experienced when we would have our retreats and our spiritual advances, that was pieces, that's who I was, and I wanted to bring that to the group, Soul Children. And from that, I always used to remember that we would go to trips. It was something about taking trips that, whatever it is, y'all get real spiritual. Y'all got so deep. Y'all get so deep. But through those trips, ministries were birthed.
Really?
And people were, I remember in particular going to Amsterdam and something happened in the rooms.
Sure did.
That there was a spiritual experience, and we had several pastors birthed out of that.
Sure did.
Going down to St. Louis, and how, I'm listening, I just see Patrick Schaefer and Nash Schaefer, and just listening and watching the transfer. I remember it like it was yesterday. The transformation of Patrick Schaefer, who's now a pastor, who wasn't even he was like the total opposite of everything. But watching that happen, because purpose met opportunity, and they took it, and it says, train up a child in the way that they should go, so when he's old, he won't depart from it.
So is that why you've chosen, because the question would be, why kids and not adults? Because a man with your talent, with your skill set, with your experience, you could take any adult choir or an adult group and do what you do. So is that why kids instead of adults? Why is that?
You know, I never understood that because I've tried to quit. I've tried to give it up. I've been the hurt and the disappointment, the things that makes you really want to just say, you know what? Give you a Esther Roll moment from Good Times. You know what? I've had those you know what moments.
Yeah.
But I also know that there's something that God keeps, He won't allow it. It's almost like I can't give it up.
Yeah.
And it's not that it's not something I'm forced to do.
Sure.
It happens. I actually get probably my biggest joy out of doing it.
Wow.
And even in the hurt, that's how you know that it's birthed in you versus something that you've carried on like a hireling. So if I was a hireling, I would have quit a long time ago. And
Sure.
just, I mean, if I was waiting for money and all of this, and all the accolades and all of this,
Right.
I'd be gone. But because it's a calling.
It's calling.
And I'm chosen to, because I'm not just called, I am also chosen. And I know that, I've realized that. Once I've realized that, I know you can't get away from it. And you can continue to do it. And I can duplicate it anywhere. I've seen it in Europe. I've seen it in white, black, Jewish. I've seen it with people who don't even believe in Jesus. And I've seen it. So I said, whatever it is that God has on my life, I know that kids are drawn to me. And even if they don't speak English, and that's why I even, you know, with us going to Barcelona, I've adopted a orphanage there. These kids don't even speak English.
Wow.
But these little kids, so drawn to me, and it's like, how do you? I said, God, what is that?
Yeah.
That would make a kid who's been abused physically, who's been abused mentally, who's had the worst life. But you want to get to a man that can't even relate to you by language.
Right.
But whatever the spirit is that's in me, and we connect just like that.
Yeah.
That's how I just know. I said, okay, I don't know what this is that God's doing. He must have a really great sense of humor because he know I don't like kids. And so why these kids keep coming to me? Why are you attracted to me? And I'll be like, will you get away from me? Just go away.
Yeah.
Like, but they won't leave. And so even with the soul children, as much as I know, and I know I'm mean, they call me mean, they be crying, shut up. They be crying. They'll be crying and weeping away, but they will come back. It's like, you glutton for punishment. You like it.
I think it's fatherly. I think it's paternal. Because with me, I grew up in church, but I had the street aspect of me. I was in the streets. I mean, going to church, but I had the street, and so I know for a fact that the way that I grew up, the neighborhood I grew up in Inglewood, and who I was at the moment. When I found Soul Children and became a part of it, had it not been for Soul Children, I tell people all the time, I have no idea where I would have ended up. It came at a point in my life that I really needed some direction and as to where my life was going to go. It was obviously those early years are very impressionable. I did not grow up with my father, and coming to Soul Children, there was always something fatherly about you. There was always something, even though you were a stickler and you were on top of it, and you said you were mean. I don't think you were mean. You're a perfectionist. You did what you did, but there was something that always drew us to you. It was the father in you, and so that has to be what it was. I know for me personally, that's what it was, and even today. Why there's such a respect for you, because we, some of the alumni, some of the guys that I grew up in Soul Children with, even today we talk about how you work. We talk about the antics, but we also talk about the fact that Soul Children saved our lives, and so just the father in you. Many things today that I've adopted in my life as a man. Came from things that you taught me, things that you said to me. There was no times where literally sat down
Right.
and you know, hey, let's have a life lesson. But us just talking and interacting over the years, there were things you said to me. Some things today that I'm sure that I get in trouble for, and I'm going to blame it on you, because you don't take soul children everywhere. You never took us to
Right.
all of the
Right.
status quo stuff. You kept us away from it.
Yeah.
And I think to a fault now for me, because some of that stuff, you told me one time, you told me, listen, you can't go everywhere. You can't be around everybody. You did. It's his
Amen.
fault.
Praise the Lord. That's right.
Right.
New communication corrupts good manners. Yes, it is. That's the word. That's the word. No, no.
So, and so even today, you know, a lot of those things that you said, a lot of those things that you shared, follow me and has shaped me becoming the man that I am. And so I know that it's the paternal thing, it's the fathering thing. And you don't have any children of your own, but you have hundreds of kids that you fathered. That today, I'm certain, if I sat them all down to talk, that they would all have that testimony.
Besides being one of the world's greatest choir directors, Mr. Whitman to me is a mentor, the epitome of creativity and longevity. He's been doing this for 34 years and counting and able to sustain. Not everyone can do that, but he's done it with excellence.
What can I say about Mr. Whitman? Mr. Whitman has been a father, he's been a leader, he's been a shining example. He brought me closer to God, he's changed my life, music saved my life. He's helped me in the industry as far as just being great and wanting perfection and being excellent in everything that I do. So you changed my life, Pops, I love you. Anything I can do for you, I'm only a phone call away, and I'll be back home sooner than you think. Ghost, I'm out.
Walt Whitman Jr., greatest choir director ever. And there might be some people who would argue with me about that, but the mere fact that he is in the conversation speaks to his genius and his creativity and his longevity. And I think that, if not the greatest, absolutely one of the greatest to have ever have done it before.
Mr. Whitman's dad, he's a father. You know, I got many things from him that I wasn't able to get at home. Some kids have fathers that are there that aren't there.
Right, absolutely.
And many of them, that's their testimony. They didn't have that relationship with their dad. They came to rehearsal on Saturday morning or Wednesday, and they got to spend an hour or two with you, and they felt that from you. And yeah, it's just amazing. So. Let's talk about longevity. We're talking 34 years. Soul Children has had in 34 years, how many major releases?
We've had
4?
8.
8?
Yes.
Major label releases.
It'd be about, 7.
Okay.
About 7.
Okay, 7 total.
Yeah.
How long has it been since Soul Children has had a hit on the radio?
If you talk, depending on how you look at it, we don't have what we call the fresh hit. Whatever it is that people are stuck on our old stuff, which means that they'll still play, oh Lord, how excellent. They will still play We Are One.
Absolutely.
They still keep playing old material. During the time when we first came out, we had an actual label that was pushing us.
Sure.
The other times we had a label that was just throwing us out there. So we really had nobody that was saying, we're pushing Soul Children, we're pushing Soul Children. Right. And so, you know, I think, which is one of the reasons why people are stuck on the old stuff, because that was what people pushed. Right. And they kept that going. Right. And our new stuff, I mean, we've really never been marketed. We've never had nobody to push us. We've just kind of like been out there. But it's amazing that we're still moving.
That's the question. How do you do that? I mean, do you have, and maybe you don't know, but I have to ask, there are artists that have been artists for 5-10 years who can't seem to find a flow in any way, but 34 years, you haven't had a major hit on the radio and in at least, 10, 15 years?
Yeah.
But you never stop moving. How do you do that?
I believe purpose.
Okay.
Because Soul Children is a purposed group. And so because of that, it has kept us busy. And so people find the purpose. So while we may not be doing gospel we're not Bobby Jones, we're not hitting all
Sure.
those shows.
Sure.
God has got us in corporate America.
Absolutely.
God has got us in the White House. God has got us in these different areas where our purpose drives us.
Sure.
And the purpose is what keeps us. And that
Got it.
purpose is what preserves you so that even in famine,
Got it.
even in drought, purpose will continue to feed you. And that's what has been happening with the Soul Children, is that purpose has consistently fed us over 34 years, 33, so that even now, if we do a concert, we could pack it out.
Absolutely.
Without a record deal.
Yep.
I mean, without
Right.
record play or whatever. And that's purpose.
Yeah.
What's up, everybody? This is Jamie Simon.
This is Mandel Brown.
Listen, and we just stopped for 1 second to let everybody know that tonight's program, Talk to Me with Jamie Simon, is brought to you by Del Trey Productions. Now listen, Del Trey Productions is a full-service audio and video productions company. Mandel?
Yeah, we have a lot of projects in store. We have a Facebook page, so check us out on Facebook. It's Del Trey Productions, just as you heard it. And we got some stuff coming up. Check us out.
Yeah, and go and like our page. And also, we want you to follow Talk to Me with Jamie Simon on social media. Go to Instagram, go to Twitter, go to Facebook, like our page. Follow us to stay connected, and so that we let you know what's going on with the company and let you know what's going on with the program, all right? So let's get back to the program.
Yeah, we need to get back to this program.
All right, let's get back in, all right? We'll holler at y'all later.
Have a good one.
All right.
Okay. I believe that purpose is the driving force of anything that has going to have life for a long period of time. If you find people, find organizations, I say if you find, we'll deal with gospel.
Sure.
Gospel artists who only want to make an album.
Right.
That's not purpose.
Exactly.
If you only want to perform and have accolades, that's not purpose. That's just you trying to fulfill a need in you to feel wanted.
Indeed.
Versus understanding that there's a purpose for what you do, even if everybody else doesn't acknowledge that.
Sure.
That you can be able to survive even when folks stop calling you.
Yeah.
And so that for the Soul Children, people don't know what we do. They don't know, they're trying to figure out how y'all get on TV all the time. How y'all get into the White House 3 or 4 times in 1 year?
No records, no radio hits. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, how?
Yeah.
I think the thing that probably brought it home for me was when I was at the presidential inauguration and we were outside and they were playing the presidential playlist on, all outside on the street, and there was no gospel artists except Soul Children on there. And I was like, and I told the Soul Children, I said, do you hear this?
Wow.
I said, this is the presidential playlist.
Right.
I said, and they're playing you.
Wow.
They're not playing any other gospel artists.
Right.
I said, what is that? I believe that it's purpose. It's purpose. And I just, God says, and just again, that's what keeps us going.
Yeah.
Even when the church don't ask us to come, we don't get church invitations. They don't invite us.
And it's a shame. It really is a shame for a lot of different reasons that I won't even go into. But you have always had the goods. Now, I'm going to get in trouble, and I don't care.
It's your show, dude.
Yeah, I'm going to get in trouble. You, to me, and of course, all right, anybody looking, anybody watching, you're going to say, okay, he was a part of the Soul Children. I was. But I have watched in Chicago and in gospel music over the last 30 years, choirs, soloists, directors. I have never seen anybody, and I've seen a lot of choir directors, I've never seen any choir director do what you do. I never have. I think that you have not been properly honored. And I want to say this, and I'm going to ask that you be, for a moment, I hope that you will, just a little bit selfish, just for a second. Would you say that since you've been in Chicago and since you've been in gospel music, would you say that you were one of the top 5 directors all time? Yeah.
I would think, yeah. I mean, I would think that when you think of choirs and think of directors, Probably.
Thank you.
I would say probably somewhere in that,
Thank you.
because in reference to consistency, yes. That has been,
Yeah, because a lot of you, and I'm talking directly to you, a lot of you are watching YouTube clips and Instagram videos of different directors all over. And now listen, we have some great ones, and they are, but you're seeing some of the videos that have been circulating. I saw a song that we recorded 20 years ago, a 20-year-old arrangement of a song that you did. A director, I saw him teach it, do it with a choir, and everybody just went crazy. Like it was this big thing. I won't say the director or the song, but I will say that I read some of the comments on social media that said, oh, this guy is just amazing. And this, man, do you hear this arrangement? Do you hear this song? And I'm thinking to myself, we did this 25 years ago. And the arrangement came from Walt Whitman. And so, right, yeah. So anyway, things that you were doing that long ago, some of them have watched you. Some of them have patterned their directing after you. I don't know if they would say that, if they would give you the credit that you deserve, but I think, I have arguments with people. I tell them all the time. I've been in Chicago, know these guys. I've seen what they do. There is not a director in the city like Walt Whitman. I saw, it's a funny story. Soul Children went to Washington, D.C., and we went to, I believe that it was an inauguration for Carol Moseley Braun. And if you guys remember Carol Moseley Braun, it was her inauguration. It was a service that we were having. Now, Mr. Whitman was late. I think his flight was late or whatever, but the Soul Children was already there. So we were on stage, and he had other directors set up. So we were singing. We went on and we did the concert, but he wasn't there. And I just imagine how he felt before he got there. This is his baby. We're on the stage. We're his kids, and we're in D.C. for this major thing. He's late. He's not there. I just want to tell you that when he got there, when he arrived in the building, it was almost as if time stopped. He came in the side door. He dropped his coat. He had on a coat, a fur coat. That just let you know, the full-length fur coat. He dropped it at the door, completely dropped it. He ran to the stage. And when I tell you, for the next 5 minutes, we sang It Is Well. And he directed this song like I have never seen. To me, that was my favorite time. We don't have any footage of that. We've been trying to find it, but it was amazing. It was utterly amazing to watch him maneuver and to do everything that he did, and for him not to get the credit or the recognition in Chicago just alone from directors is a travesty, I think. But I'm glad you said it. Definitely top 5. I would say number 1 in my book, that he is the number 1. So
and I appreciate that.
Sure,
Thank you
yeah,
so much.
please. All right. So anyway, so.
There's a movement of soul children, and I literally, there are hundreds of soul children choirs now coming up literally all over the world, from Indonesia to Ecuador to Japan to Germany to Sweden, and all over Norway.
Wow.
And there's an International Soul Children Festival now, which in Oslo, it's 1,800 singers called Soul Children, based on what was experienced in Sweden many years ago when I went.
Sure.
And so a lot of times we as African Americans don't grasp the power of influence,
Sure.
and we miss it. And so people can take what we have, and people they've been doing it for years because they have the acumen to write, they have the acumen to organize and to strategize and to implement and to expand. And because of that, Soul Children now is expanding literally all over the world. I am trying to get myself to a place where I can be able to take the reins of that.
Sure.
I don't want to take what they're doing because I think what they're doing is great.
Yeah.
But Soul Children is the impetus of this.
Yes.
We're the ones that have that. You have so taken. You so like what we do. You even named yourself
Absolutely.
Soul Children.
Absolutely.
You so like what we do that you are doing the same thing that we have done, but you're just creating it in your own way because it's European.
Sure.
Soul Children, I don't know if they get it yet here. Neither do the parents get it.
Right.
But I get it. And so, whatever I need to do to get it, I'm going to take it and harness it.
Absolutely. Real quick, I'm gonna give you a couple of names, and I want you to just tell me what comes to your head when you hear these names. Walt and Shirley Whitman.
Mother, father, the foundation of who Walt Whitman is.
Okay.
Air Force.
Yeah.
Travel.
And your mom is still assisting you.
Mother and father are probably my best #1 fans.
Wow.
My family is my mother. My mother still comes to rehearsal. My dad will always pop up at an event.
Yeah.
He'll be late, but he'll be there. And so he is going to be there. They support me 110%.
Sure.
It's beyond. Sometimes it's beyond amazing and belief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked about purpose. This name is a huge name, Miles Monroe.
Oh my God. Yes, the man who inspired my thought on purpose. And actually, I think I brought, did we introduce Miles Monroe to Soul Children?
Absolutely.
Because during those times when purpose-driven, not the purpose-driven life, the pursuit of purpose.
Pursuit.
Yeah, and then he wrote a book called The Power of Vision, which I bought boxes of it and gave it to people because I felt that when he spoke about the power of vision, there was something about what he said that I said, oh my God, everybody needs to know this. He is the purpose man when it comes down to it, beyond even Rick Warren. I believe Miles Monroe would be the one that everybody would have to pattern before. He would be the one. He taught from a different perspective because he comes from a British experience. So he understands kingdom. He understands that levels, and he understands that. So his whole understanding of purpose and destiny and all of the other stuff comes from a different perspective than if you were here in the U.S.
What did we lose when we lost Miles?
We lost somebody who has absolutely impacted has caused the kingdom of God to increase in levels like we've never seen before.
Sure.
I believe that he has imparted it into his kids. And so there's those that he's been teaching that will carry that mantle.
Did you choose music, or did music choose you?
That's interesting. I think music chose me. I believe that I've always loved music because I've loved music, and because of the exposure that I've had, because of my father's travel, being exposed. I think music has taken me. The music definitely chose me. I embraced it. I've been very diverse. So my musical taste and palettes are very diverse because of my background. So I believe that the music has chosen me, and I've embraced it, and I've chosen it. And now we've embraced each other.
Wonderful. That's great. That's great. Nobody has answered it quite that way, which I figured it would be. This has been a dream come true to sit with you, to talk to you in this way. I asked several people to chime in and say, what would I ask Mr. Whitman if I could sit with him? And so some of the questions I could not ask you. They're old soul children, and they wanted to ask some things that I just would not ask you on camera. But a couple of them, I kind of got in. But just to sit with you and have this conversation in this time, and as you said, my daughter is now a part of the Soul Children, and just to see the legacy, and I'm praying that she would experience just a morsel of what Soul Children has done for me. And everything that you have done, everything that you have given me, things that have been intentional and unintentional, I thank you. If I never have said thank you to you, you in many ways saved my life. And I appreciate all that you have been, everything that you have given to me. You gave me a platform when people told you not to. There were people that were, there were parents and people that were against me singing. And you still allowed what I had to go forward. And I appreciate that. I don't know that I've ever said that to you, but I do. And what you did for me today, if anybody ever asks, they would always know that you are, I call you founder and director and leader, because even today, we don't talk every day, we don't talk every other week, but I still feel that connection. I still feel that because you birthed me out, and many of the things that I have done and have achieved so far come from seeds that you have given me and planted in me. And so I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate you today, and I wish you the best, and I know that God is going to continue to do what he does. He does all things well, and he's going to continue to do amazing things in the life of Walt Whitman and the Soul Children of Chicago and all over the world as we know it right now. Sir,
thank you. I am so proud of you, man of
so
God.
much.
And thank you, my son.
Oh, yeah.
So this.
Talk to me, would you talk to me? Ooh, yeah, talk to me.